This daf here, Yerushalmi Shabbos, and the article also edition run daf Taivav Amrav, the new parak Kokis V'Akodesh, which is in the Vilna Ayin Ches Amud Beis. So the Mishnah says, Kokis V'Akodesh Mitzias V'Mnei Leika, any safer from Tanakh, turn of Suvin, you could save on Shabbos on account of a fire. As the Pnei Moshe points out here, it's talking about to a mavui, which has 3 walls and a lechi, but no eruv was made there for the Shabbos, and nevertheless you'll have to save it that area, and you also have to go through the tircha, the toil of saving them on Shabbos on account of the fire. Bench korban, bench kohen bohen. Whether you can read them or can't read them, the Gemara is going to explain what that means. Even though they're written in any language. Now, the question of whether that's going on, something you say in Shabbos, even though they're written in other languages, or tuning Gniza. The next line, that even though they're written in any language, they require Gniza. It seems to go in the next line, that even though they're written in any language, on a weekday, you have to put them into a Gniza, meaning that when you dispose them, you have to put them in Shemus. Ne'mai koren bohen. There's a lacha you don't read ksuvim on Shabbos. Why don't we read ksuvim on Shabbos? Nei bitul beis hamedrash, because people get drawn after the ksuvim. They'll read them at home on their own, and they're not going to come into the beis medrash to hear the drush on Shabbos. So it says the Gemara, "Ma ben koren shekoren ben ben shekoren ben." What is it when it says ben shekoren ben shein koren ben? What's it referring to? So the Gemara understands that this last line, "Ein koren ben bitul beis hamedrash," is a separate issue than the first bench koren ben shein koren ben in the Mishnah. So the first bench koren ben shein koren ben yesh b'hem toyos, where it has many mistakes and therefore not allowed to read from them. Bench shein toyos, where it doesn't have many mistakes. Vatani, and this is how we learned. As we learned, as the Kormei says, this is b'nichusa. This is not a question. It's a evidence. Sefer sheish bo shtayim sholosh toyos b'chol daf. If you have a sefer which has 2 or 3 mistakes on every column, every page, literally, metaktum korbo, you can fix it and read it. So that's koren ben. Arba ena koren ben. If it has 4 mistakes on a page, so that's too much, and you assume that there's something wrong with the sefer, and you can't read from that. Say you can't fix it and read from it. So but even that sefer, which has many mistakes in it, and you can't read from it, you can still save it on Shabbos. So the next line is a bit cryptic, but I'm going to learn it more like the Ridbaz, more or less. The Ridbaz says that, well, now the Gemara says, no, that's not the original koren ben, ein koren ben. Ma'adina me'ima ein koren ben nei bitul beis hamedrash. So, Adam Ara, and now it's missing something, right? Adam Ara, that's really, the koren is the Torah Nevi'im, and ein koren is ksuvin. Okay, so that it seems that there's a line missing from where it says Hada Amara. There should be really an additional few words saying that the koren is Torah Nevi'im and ein koren is ksuvim. Now the Mashbiach says that the next line is Bein Torah Nevi'im is talking L'kis V'Akodesh is talking about the gvil, the blank parchment between each segment. And when you have a Tanakh which is bound together, there's going to be a blank parchment between the Torah, between the Nevi'im and the Ksuvim. And it's a parallel to the Sugi and the Bavli. Ematz, the Gvil, the blank parchment, between Ben Torah and the Nevi'im and Klis Ematz in the like you can't say because of the fire can only say the Kis Ve'akosh, actually things are written, not the Gvil. So Gemara says, depends. He holds that the Gvil is Matamis Yadayim, not just the place where stuff is written, but even the blank parchment. So it's part of the Sefer Torah. So therefore, would save the Gvil as well. The one who holds that it's not Matami Yadayim, the Gvil is not Matami Yadayim because there's no writing on it. So therefore, you can't save it on account of the fire. Hey, Sibun, so they asked the question. If you had the part of Tanakh which is supposed to be written in Hebrew, and you wrote it in Aramaic, it's not Matami Yadayim, right? So you save it from the fire, right? So Gemara says, yes, it's true. That which is written in every lush is Ton Gniza. Hadam Ara, the Mitzvah so made Leika. It says that you say when I got the Leika. So the Shbiach says yes, but it's only what's written, even though it's written in any language, but not the Gvil. So it's a little bit choppy, but that's what it means to say. So the Gemara goes on to ask: do we say is our Mishnah Masnisa the Rabbi Shimon? Is our Mishnah there's six Rabbi Shimon and Mishnah Rabbi Shimon? The Shema ain't Dover Mishum Shvus or Shomin name because the question is no Rabbanon. It stands a way of saving holy scripture. The name Moshe explains. He says, "Masnisa Shimon me name, but do we say the Hodin that which says Matzlinosam? Because it's because Rabbi Shimoni. Torah Perak Basa the Erevin. It says in the last paragraph of Erevin, Gabehoya Korb Sefer Brosh Agog. Someone is reading a sefer at the top of the roof. He's galgam yado and rolled out of his hands. Actually, he lasor tfachim before he reaches 10 tfachim. Kolo etzo he rolls it back to him. Shvila lasor tfachim once he reaches 10 tfachim of the ground, within 10 tfachim of the ground. Hovo excited return upside down and leave it there till after Shabbos chule. Shemar afilu beretz atzmo even if it reaches the land, it's the ground itself. Kolo etzo he can roll it back. Sheichel davar mishum mishvus omi v'nei kodesh. There's no shvus. There's not really a true since then completely leave the first rishus, so it's only the rabbanan to roll back. And therefore, the to remove it from the yard from this yard to another yard with which it has no eruv, so that perhaps is going therefore it's only going like Rabbi Shimon. Says the Gemara. Ma pligin. Says Gemara, no. Is there machlokas? No, not necessarily. Tam ne bizonim. There, the question is bizonim. You can leave it after Shabbos. Just hope chalak. It's a bit of a bizonim, but they're not going to be lost. They're not going to be destroyed. They're here where it's going to get destroyed if you leave it there. It's not just going to be in a degraded state till after Shabbos. It's going to be destroyed, so everybody agrees to save it from the fire. Lemi nitzucha. To who do we need our Mishnah to tell us the chiddush of if everybody agreed to that? So to whom is the chiddush? Lemi nitzucha Shimon Gamliel. It's a chiddush according to Shimon Gamliel. Even though Shimon Gamliel said even by Sfarim that they only permitted to write Sifrei Kodesh in Greek, not in any other language. Nevertheless, you do save the other Sfarim in other languages on account of the fire. And the more brings down that with the Shita of Shita Gamliel, Ma'aser ben Gamliel, Gamliel, one's Gamliel. I assume we're saying it's the same Shita. Ma'aser Gamliel made a binyan bar Arbais, standing on a structure in Arbais. I believe in the Bible it says standing on the steps in Arbais. People say for Eov, Kosuv Targum. He wrote him a sefer Eov, which is written in Aramaic. Amar Banoi, and he said to the builder, "You go into Tachas and Nidbach. They should be put into a gniza into the under the I think in Nidbach is also under the structure, under the missing the right word." So it's a layer of bricks. That's what a nidbach is. So it's interesting because Kniza under a layer of bricks is evidently a higher, a more respectable way than putting up in a fire. So even though Rabban Gamliel holds you have to put it into a Kniza, even under a layer of bricks, it's still there's Metzilim Mipnei Adleika. You save it from the fire in order to eventually put it in Geniza. It's a fascinating thing here in this Gemara. So the Gemara continues on the topic of Ksubin. You can't read the Ksubim except after Mincha, when I guess the drasha was already over in the base Medrash. So more Bittul base Medrash concept. But you can review them and expound them. In other words, you can't read them as reading material, but you can learn them throughout Shabbos. Tzarech davar noto badikim. You need something to check it out in the ksuvim. It's on muktzeh. You can take it and check it out. Dilma. I haven't had the word Dilma as a story in a while, but Dilma. Rabbi Rav Chia Rabbah, Rabbi Rav Chia the Great, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, Hayoshim Pashim Gilas Kinos. They were sitting and learning Megillas Kinos, which is Eicha, Erev Tisha B'Av Shechalios B'Shabbos, on Erev Tisha B'Av, which came on Shabbos, Mincha Namala, after Mincha. They left one alabase, they didn't finish. Now, it was a machloikas here, Abraham Moshe was mean left one alabase because there are 5 prokim in Eicha, but the last parak is not al seder alabase, so it doesn't go in order. So the question is whether the alabase is left the last parak, or they left one of the alabases out of the 4th parak, because the 4th parak has the alabase 3 times, although it's difficult to understand because it's aleph, 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 beis, 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 etc. So I'm not sure how leave out one aleph base of that parak, unless the 2 psukim to skip the 3rd pasuk. And another pshat is that they I'm not sure, perhaps this is what Bnei Moshe means, that they left out the whole 4th parak. In other words, the first 3 prokim left out the whole 4th parak. Anyway, they left something out. So they said Amru here. The Gutzai Gemara changed it. Probably the article to change the text itself. Lemachar anu b'ayim garmasa. On Tisha B'Av will come. We'll finish learning it. Inksha nifta beis. So as Rebbe was going to his house, nichsha betzbo. He stubbed his toe. The Koral Atzmein. He said about himself, Rabbi Machovin LaRasha. There are many aches, maybe pains before the Russia. Bechir said, no, you're not a Russia. This happened on account of Arbers. As it says in this, in one of the Arbers in Eicha, either when they got to it, they didn't get to it, depending on where they stopped. Ruach HaPeinu Mashiach Hashem Nilcha B'Shchis Osam. The spirit of our nose, the anointing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's referring there, I believe, to Yoshua HaMelech. He was punished. He was killed as a result of the Averos of Am Yisrael. So as the Mashiach, the anointed one, the Nasi, suffers on behalf of the Averos of Klal Yisrael. Tzaddik suffers for the masses. So Rabbi Shlomo said, if we weren't learning this, we should have said this. So again, if they got to the 5th parak, just after the 5th parak, they already learned this. If they didn't, they stopped before the 4th parak, so they're saying that we would have gotten to it in any event. We're about to get there. If we're not involved in this matter, we should have said it. Certainly now that we were involved in this Indian, that they were learning Eicha, and the said they actually learned it, or they were close to it, as Moshe says. All right. In any event, Beso, Rebbe went home. Put a dry sponge on his wound, and put on it a bulrush on the outside. On Rebbe Shabbos said, we learned 3 things. We learned sfok ena merape. The sponge is not considered to be refuah, and therefore it's not osir. El mishama, it just protects. Gemi shumina muchan. And evidently that these rushes, which they used, is considered to be mina muchan. Even though they didn't actually, I guess it wasn't fixed up in any way. It's just a fiber as it came out of the plant. Nevertheless, considered muchan, it's not muktzah. The anchor in Mekisvei HaKodesh, Ella, mina min cholam. And they, as the Korban says, Loke Ella askel koydem l'gomer b'bayom. You only read the Ksuvim, mina min cholam. Because otherwise you should finish it on that on that day. Should start earlier and finish on that day. The truth is, we said before, you're allowed to be korei v'shonei the ksuvim even before mincha if you're learning it, not just reading it, so to speak. So perhaps there's an inference here that, like the poskim hold, that even where Erev Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, you can't learn mina mincha l'mala because here they weren't they were not learning it; they were reading it, and therefore that's why the issue would have applied to them. Or perhaps they hold like previous Gemara. Perhaps they held they shouldn't they shouldn't the rest. There's no after the rest of the day to be shona and to be dorish. Okay, whatever. So in any event, the Gemara now asks, "Miata, Malcolm sheyesh beis hameresh ayikro." Fine. If the issue is bittul beis hameresh, place as a beis medrash, you shouldn't read ksuvim. Malcolm she'en beis hameresh, place there is no beis medrash, you can't let them read. So therefore, the Gemara says, really, there's another reason here. The reason not to read the Kisvei Kodesh on the Shabbos is because Rabbi Nechemiah's reason. Now, the Mashbiach changed the Girsa a bit. I don't think you really have to change the Girsa, but I'm going to learn it like he learns it without changing the Girsa, which I think is the Pasuk shot. The tiny Rabbi Nechemiah said, why they asked her reading Kisvei HaKodesh and they only allowed him in a mincha l'mala? They should shred yotos. So a person should realize if they limited me, they could tell by reading even Suvim. I certainly should not be allowed to read Shitred Yotos, the common documents. Mutter. If a person is allowed to read Ksuvim, Afu Omer, say, okay, I can read other stars as well. Now, Mashbiach's difficulty with this, why I changed because is, what do you mean? Anybody should say allowed to be Ksuvim, allowed to be Shitred Yotos. How does that follow? So he changes the Girsa. But even without changing the Girsa, the idea is that primarily the safe of the statement. Mitoshat Omer Lo Shu Osir, so you tell him it's Osir be Ksuvim, Afu Omer, Kisvei Kodesh Osir. If Kisvei Kodesh Osir Shitred Yotos Lo Koshken, it's certainly also to be Shitred Yotos. So as we say, the main point is a person probably wouldn't get mixed up. But the lesson is, if this thing, which is so holy you can't read, so certainly Shitred Yotos you can't read as well. Okay, so the again, Afuam Kisvei Kodesh also Shitred Yotos Lo Koshken. So says Gemara, since we said we want you to go to the Beis Medrash to hear the drasha, and the drasha was, and the Beis Medrash was about halacha, probably about the Gemara assuming that it's out of the Mishnah, is at the time of the Mishnayos, we're talking about Mishnah. So Adav Amra Mishnah Kodems the Gemara. Mishnah takes preference over Mikra. They say Gemara. Adav Mishnah Kodems the Mikra. V'dam Isayla Hadatan Rabbi Shimon Chai. And this this is evidence of Rabbi Shimon Chai. Tanya Shimon Chai says, "Hosei b'mikra." Somebody learns mikra, midah sheina midah. It's a midah which is not a full midah, right? In other words, it's not as good as Mishnayos. Hosei Mishnah midah shlodim meneschar. So it's about Mishnayos. It's a midah for which you get rewarded. In other words, it's a higher level. Hosei b'Talmud. Something involved in Talmud, which at the time of Shimon Chai obviously was all Baal Peh. Even the Mishnah was really Baal Peh at that point. But the point is that in expounding the Mishnah, En Chamida G'dola Mizu, there is no greater midah than that. Nevertheless, Loam have a Ratz Achar Mishnah Yesim in a Talmud. You should go to the Mishnah more than the Talmud. In other words, the Mishnah, so many Pshatim said in this line, and a gazillion Pshatim said in this line and the next line. But it's on a simple level. It means, yeah, Talmud, but the Talmud is the expounding the Mishnah. But first you have to have the Mishnah, and then you go to the Talmud. So really, although Talmud is the greatest thing, but first get the Mishnayos down pat, especially when Tashim B'Chai, again, the Mishnayos were mostly Baal Peh still. So therefore, I mean, they're all Baal Peh. So therefore, get those Mishnayos down straight first, then go on to the Talmud afterwards. Okay, now Rabbi Yossi Rabun is going to modify that, but that already is on tomorrow's daf, so we'll leave that for tomorrow.